Good morning.
Good morning. There's like just a bunch of mosquitoes in here, but you know, whatever. I don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
they're
I don't know what to do about it.
terrible.
They're at my house too.
I don't know. So I've got an essential oils thing, and I do put like pine and like woodsy smells are supposed to help. And maybe it does. I don't know. I don't have it in my house, but I want to sit on the patio because it's gorgeous, and I feel like I am a buffet table.
Okay, so it's not just it's okay. I can't figure it out.
No. And I have so few jealousies in life, but there's some people that just never get bit by mosquitoes, never get head lice. And I do reserve a special jealousy for those.
Yes, 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 yes. So,
So
how
my
are you doing?
camera's well, first of all, my camera's being weird. I don't have a filter on, but it's making my face look all like digital. How am I doing? Um, I But physically I'm having a really terrible menstrual cycle, but about every 3 or 4 that happens where I can't really stand up. But mentally, emotionally, I am just having a blast.
Good.
I did a 6.5 mile hike yesterday, so I'm feeling really good after that. um Really working on trying to create an exercise habit, and it's definitely worked. So I'm about 35 days in, and my feet are hurting me today, and I'm just like, damn it, I want to go out and walk. So that urge, that craving has definitely taken over. So I feel like I've accomplished that goal. Did I tell you I'm Swedish death cleaning my house?
No, what does that mean? You're minimalizing or something?
Well, I'm doing a pseudo Swedish death cleaning. And I didn't read the book, but the idea is that I think it's targeted more for people later in life. The idea is that you clean up your shit so that your kids and loved ones don't have to upon your death.
Oh, oh, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. So I could say it's minimalist, but I don't know if that's the true intent of it. So and I've moved around a lot, and I just keep shoving shit in boxes. Um,
Oh,
and what I've noticed that I'm buying stuff that I have stuff in storage. So what I've been doing is I've been bringing everything out of storage
yeah.
and
You
repacking,
love.
tossing it. But as I'm packing it away, there's things that I don't want to get rid of, right? Like I have really nice bedding that I would like to have for guests or whatever. So as I'm packing it back in, I am splitting it very carefully to make sure that if somebody were to come in my storage, they could be like, okay, this is a Goodwill box. There's nothing in here that I care about. This is a keepsake box. So that's super clean and clear about what is within the contents, to make it, was
You
easy
see,
for me
that's
on my
really
brain.
interesting because I have also been on an organization kick, and that comes for me in very strong waves that are outside of myself, and I have to like just roll with it, right? And it is like a spatial thing, but then it gets into like I'm like diving into all this expansion work, right? Like like so it's like organizing energy, organizing like direction, organizing the house. So and that's been coming in really strong. Like on Saturday it was all just like
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
interesting energy for me. And one time I owned a large home that I sold after living there for many years, and I did not know where I wanted to live after that. And I we could say in the past maybe had huge commitment issues. So getting into even a lease, let alone like buying a home, was like just not on the table for me, right? I'm like I'm unloading this huge boat anchor of being a homeowner of a large home with a pool and all this crap to take care of. And I don't want any responsibility, and I don't know what I want to do, so I don't want to commit to anything. So I ended up, I was like, oh, I saw my friend Phil, friend since I was in high school, and Phil's a bachelor that lives alone in a 3 bedroom house, in Tempe, which is kind of central if you're in Phoenix area. So I was like, hey Phil, what do you think about renting a couple of those rooms to like me and my kid? Because I have no idea what I want to do with my life. And he was like, cool, because he also could use the company and it would bring down his expenses and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm going from this huge like 5-bedroom house with a guest house into like 2 extra bedrooms at Phil's house, right? So I had to like and I don't know where I want to live, right? So I had to like seriously downsize. And I found that I even had like 3 broken vacuums in one whole closet.
Oh
like,
God.
like,
Yes, I get that.
why?
Like, what is that? Why do we do that? I mean, so at its heart, I mean, it's one challenge moving from one place to another, right? Like, there's a lot to unpack in those stories, which I totally get. But is it just, it's got to be just lack of abundance, right? Like, you're just so afraid that you're not going to have enough. I mean, what comes up for you when you laugh at yourself now, knowing that you had 3 broken vacuums, which is just
Well,
really funny.
because it's for me the lack of abundance has never been in financial or anything like that for me. Like it's been in time. Right. So I'm laughing at the busyness of this person that's like, oh, maybe I can get a spare part for that, and like shoves it in the closet and then keeps moving. And then is like, well, crap, I need a vacuum. This thing went, I don't know, like, okay, here's another one. You know, like it's like this kind of like energizer bunny, like, and then when you finally pause, and this is what happens in my life now too, when I finally get some downtime, then I'm like, all right, clean it out. Like clean it, like it's like a compulsion, like I have to do it, because the smoother the space is,
Yeah.
like the smoother my energy flow is. And then my father, so I put all the cool stuff that people would actually maybe want on offer up, and I said, you got to come pick it up, right? Like just like come and get it. I'm still like doing my Energizer Bunny thing. And then my dad, who's in construction, is like, you got a bunch of crap in this house. I'm like, I know. And so he puts a small dumpster in my driveway so that I can just like chuck broken vacuums in it and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And it was like so liberating and felt so good. And so ever since then, when I cleaned out that large home and went into like Phil's extra bedroom, for several months, so then went to like, okay, we live in a bedroom. Um, that I've been a little bit of a minimalist. So if I don't use something or love something, I want nothing to do with it. And if someone leaves their stuff at my house, I'm like, hey, so and so, I've got your stuff. Let's get this stuff to you. Like, I don't want anyone else's stuff at my house. I just like it. Like, I've got 2 dresses and I'm like, I just don't wear these enough. And then I was going to donate them, but then I thought of a cute friend. I'm like, I feel like this cute friend would like these dresses. So I told her, look, hey, you've got like 24 hours to come and check out these dresses. And then they're going to the Goodwill.
So I'm in a really funny thing because like I'm in Bisbee, and Bisbee is this super walkable, very active community. It's about, I think it's like 3 to 5 thousand people, and I just keep putting stuff on the sidewalk, and it's like gone by the end of the day, and it's good stuff. But it's like a super artsy, craftsy, repurposing, very sustainably minded neighborhood. So, like, I have these really nice boxes from when my daughter was younger that you could, repaint or whatever. And so it's like, if I was living in Phoenix, I would have thrown away because I'm not going to go find somebody. But here, things that I would have
They
thrown
find it.
away. Yeah, like people are like, oh my God, there's like a treasure box at her house. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
I think has been interesting.
P.S.
But
If you
it's
have another treasure box, I do have a collection of dress up clothes for the children to play with when I have parties here for the
oh
community.
good.
So I have been calling in because the box that I have is too small now, because we keep getting more fun stuff for the kids to play dress up with.
These are little ones, but I'm going to tell you, when my daughter was 4, on a whim, I went to like one of the kid. This is an idea for anybody listening. I went to one of the child like the Buffalo Exchange for kids, like like the children's clothing exchange stores, and it was the beginning of October, and they just put out the Halloween costumes, and I bought every single one. Well, yeah, well, but I bought every single one of them, and I mean, I'm talking about like I had a chest full, and that was what she got for Christmas that year, and I don't think I spent more than $40,
Yeah, it
and
was
that
great.
box of dress up clothes and Halloween costumes, and I bought the boys, the girls, the gender neutral. I didn't care. Pissed off the store owner,
Yeah.
but yeah, $40, $60. It was my daughter's Halloween costume. That was her present.
It's
Uh,
so fun to dress up, right?
yeah, it is,
I love
especially.
dressing up. I don't know about you, but I love dressing up.
I know,
I
and you
love
always look hot. So you brought something up a second ago that hit a little bit over the weekend for me. You talked about you didn't have a lack of abundance financially, but you did for time.
yeah.
And I think that was really interesting because this weekend, I'm on like this mass lifestyle and spirit reset and soul reset, which has just been like the most amazing journey in a short amount of time. Like I'm like concentrated healing. But over the weekend, one of my goals is to have financial literacy. Like I can balance my checkbook. And for those of you who are under 40, that is a fancy way of saying accounts, but we still say checkbooks because we were raised with check registries. So I can balance that, but I never was taught to invest. I was never taught to stick to a budget. Those are things that I had to struggle through as I got older. But I make good money and I have money left over at the end of the month. But I have these weird spending habits because we never have money left over at the end of the month growing up.
Right.
And my parents didn't trust each other, so they would spend the money so the other one couldn't,
Oh, funny.
right? So I buy weird shit, although, I use it. But then I started panicking. It's like, oh my God, I don't have any money. But then I'm like, no, I do. I have way more money than I need, way more money than I've ever had. I'm working on healing that thought. But like you, time's been an issue. And my joke has always been like for vacation and play, I either have time or money, but I never have both at the same time. So I'm working on healing that. But the abundance thing, it's really not about money.
Yeah. So I mean, and obviously I could have more money and I can expand in that area in my life, but what I really want is like time to enjoy and like connection, like I love like just being with you or like just being with my son, and just I love like that, like oh like heart connection and like fun and like cooking and like being in nature and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So I'm letting go, and it's probably also an inherited pattern of like busyness and overworking. I come from a family of business owners, entrepreneurs, but also like we could say workaholics,
Yep.
and maybe too focused on the financial thing, right? Where it's not really the money, it's what does that represent for you? Like for me, it would be freedom, being comfortable, being able to help others, being able to enjoy.
Right.
That's what it represents to me. What's it represent to you?
Definitely, all of those things, I was raised poor. So for me, I do incorporate that element of financial. However, I don't feel guilty about it. I want money and you can all go fuck yourself. I want to do what I want to do and what I want to do. And I don't want to feel bad that I've put money into my vision plan because I don't feel like that's unspiritual or ungodly and I'm not going to buy into that junk. But we
No,
hear
it's a
that.
tool. It's a
Right.
tool.
It's, and you read these newer books about financial literacy, and they always incorporate money is an energy, like it flows back and forth, which I think is
It
which
flows
I
back
think
and
is
forth, and also
true.
let's accumulate and expand it.
Yeah, you can.
Relative.
And like you give it out, it comes back. It's funny you had said, you come from a family of entrepreneurs, and we did too. But the mindset was different back then. Like, we were raised because we're still the generation, or our parents definitely, that you work harder to make money, while at the same time, money is,
Yes.
if you have money, you're evil. But what I noticed about my family is they might have excelled at a skill, but they did not excel at business. Like my mother is really excellent at catering. She can cook for 1,200 people and never, right? Like it just doesn't phase her. But she's terrible at the business end. And
Right.
my dad was the same way. He was a brilliant mechanic. The man could fix anything. You could play could start your car and he over the phone he could tell you what was wrong with it, probably within a 90% accuracy rate. But the man couldn't run a business. And
Mhm.
my whole family was like that. I've not met a good business person, but the skill was there and the passion was there, but they never could do anything with it.
And that brings me into like the work that I've been doing, and I'll send you some stuff later. So it's kind of interesting in how this is all coming together, but it's unconscious, subconscious blocks, right? Like
Yeah.
so that block to money, financial abundance was probably there. So even though they had all these great things to offer, there was a block, right? And this hypnosis group workshop that I've gotten into, I really resonate with that because they're saying it's not really about positive thinking and vision boards. It's about unblocking wounds
Mm-hmm.
and programming that aren't allowing you to like, reach where you want. And she had said too, like it's not, you want to see if you're making your manifestations based on the ego or needing to be loved by your parents or the world or whatever, or is it really coming from like your core, your authentic self? But it's like unblocking, right? Like, so for me it's like you have to work hard, you have to be busy all the time to become. That's probably what I inherited from my
Yep.
family, and my unconscious programming that I have to let go of, right? And that's what I'm calling in. And at the same time, the friend that I wanted you to meet that introduced me to this program, she said that she had huge blocks on finances, and she finds that a lot of women to do, right? And it just starts with like knowing just like little things like how much money do you bring in, right? And actually like the third course on this is unblocking things with money. So it starts with like how to manifest and then unblocking inner child wounds, and then it
Mm-hmm.
goes into like money stuff. But like even our mutual friend yesterday was telling me she's making more money than she's ever made before. She's even got a second job, right? And she still has this fear that she doesn't have enough money and she can't move out of her parents' home and get her own place. But she's, as she's saying that, she's telling me, but it's not true. It's not true. And maybe there's some spending things like you were saying. And I said, well, you know what I did to myself quite some time ago is that I just made a number up, right? And let's say for you it's 4K. So you take that extra job money and you just put it in your account and you don't spend it, and then 4K, just as a number, is like the 0 point in your account. So you always have that little cushion, right?
Right.
And for me, it's a different number, and then I keep increasing it, right? So you always have that little cushion, and that's not like, oh, I have this money and I can like, it's like, oh, that's the stopping point. Like that's, this is my security blanket. This is like, this is my little like
Yeah.
financial savings security blanket, and so for me, I just made a number up, some years ago, and then it works. Like I just made it up and then it works, right? Like I
Well,
just
you
had to
know,
make that idea in my head.
and I've heard that trick before, and I forget about that trick. But but there's something interesting here, and I was thinking about this on my walk yesterday. Um, you're doing all this hypnosis and you're unblocking all this stuff, but you're also matching it with action. And I think a lot of people, for whatever, I'm going to call it immaturity. They, read these books or they'll do some hypnosis, and then they expect that it's just going to happen on their own. And I need to not, but I get frustrated when I talk to these people who are undergoing all of this work sitting or reading, but they're not actually doing any action with it. And so like for me, I didn't know the first thing about investing. So I've been clearing all these blocks, but that doesn't magically download the knowledge, right? Like I
Yeah.
still have to, like I have more growth to work. And now I've got the inspiration and I've got the drive and the motivation that I'm going after all this information so that I can put it into action. But I can't stress it enough. Sitting in a hypnosis or even a ketamine or an energy healing and expecting the world to bring it to you is such a load of bullshit. And I feel like a lot of people who put forward this information don't aren't strong enough on the issue of taking action after the fact.
So you're gonna love this. It's like I'm totally gonna get you this after the talk. So the group, the woman, she has a triangle, and I believe it's, the unblocking, which is important, or it's like banging your head against the wall,
Right.
right? With expansion. And through the expansion, she says, and it can be learning, right, is expanding us, right? But it can also be seeing someone that has done it, knowing someone, mentors that have done it, or even seeing people online and seeing, okay, so how did they do it?
Right.
Right? It's kind of information grabbing and then seeing, oh, she was like a waitress and then she did that. So I feel like, yeah, I could do that. Like, okay, how did she do that? And then also taking aligned action. So her triangle, you probably would get down with that.
Yeah. Yeah, action's a really big one. And I don't know, I just I see it a lot, especially like in a lot of these books, and not just money, just in general, like trying to heal and do all this work, but you just can't. Nobody's gonna save you, like you still have to walk across the desert to get water. Just because you now have a better idea of where the water is at, you still have to walk across the desert to get to it. Now you just
Yeah.
have the strength and the direction and the know-how of where that water is. I know it's kind of chintzy, but it's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So that is a strong and the financial blocks, that's real, and there's so many different ways that comes in. So something like that, it's really good to just even know, like, how much money do I make, what are my bills, just start with that. Like, how much would I feel good if I had that in my checking account,
Right.
just something simple. And it sounds a little cheesy, as like, spiritual people, kumbaya, but like financial security is security, right? So like create, and you can create that for yourself, right? And then what happens when we have, there's the word security. When we have security, we feel safe, and then we can and we can like be our authentic,
Mhm.
flowy, beautiful, creative selves, right? So there's nothing wrong with wanting that and creating that for yourself.
No, and there's enough stories and books and anecdotes out there about people who have money giving it away, and the money comes in faster than they can get rid of it. And there's something to be said about that. And again, I was raised poor. There was a time in the very recent fat past that I was on every level of government assistance. So and I'm not a Richard Branson, nor is that even on my list of things to accomplish in this lifetime. But the point is that, I had to stand in line at the DES office at 5 o'clock in the morning with an infant. And I was working full time and going to school full time. Those were the days where I didn't understand. I was still facing off with my trauma unknowingly. It was guiding every moment in my life. But as I healed, and I did so very rapidly, my life changed very, very rapidly. So it's, I don't want to say that it's possible, like it sounds like it's super far off, like, oh, if you're special. This is not work done by the special. This is work done by just everyday human beings.
Yeah, and it's like tuning into that, the magnetism too, right? When you remove the blocks too, because another thing I was going to tell you is so interesting is I'm leaning into like, oh, what do I want to do next? Like, I want to do something different. A woman reached out that she's been thinking about me since I spoke at the psychedelic seminar, and she's an educator and she just believes in my work and she wants to get it out there. She just called out of nowhere, like, and then another woman reached out and she is really resonating with me and she wants to do a partnership with referral in the ketamine work, and like sending stuff after stuff, and how she's aligned with like our energy and stuff like that. So it's really interesting how the magnetism works, when you kind of lean into it,
So,
and how it
okay.
flows.
Yeah. So, I've been spending this time in on sabbatical working on my Viva Bird project, right? My business. But what's been coming in really strong, and I'm starting to put together my agenda, is to create a course, if you will, um, outlining and streamlining the process I took to heal from complex PTSD, which I was told by several psychologists and a couple psychiatrists that it couldn't be done, only to be followed up with they couldn't believe that I had done it. So I don't know how that's going to look right now, but it's coming in very strong and hard to actually create a course. Like I said, taking everything that I learned the hard way, simmering it down to what actually worked, and
Yeah.
then creating a holistic healing plan around that, which actually does include some ketamine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's funny because I'm doing the exact same thing because I'm like, okay, this is me. And it can be inspiring for other people because just like you, the odds were against me.
yeah,
I overcame a lot of adversity and not just like survived it, but I'm thriving after it. So I'm and I'll recommend this to you and we can circle back together later is like a timeline, life timeline,
yeah,
going through all the events, big, negative and positive, and then I'm kind of like unpacking, like going backwards, like what so that I can make a roadmap for others, right? Because it's not like only I can do it or only you can do it. It's
no,
like
right.
everybody can do it, but it's just going backwards and finding the things. And
Mhm.
it's not like there's one silver bullet, you know, it's like
No, there's
process.
there's not a silver bullet. However, like you, I tried a lot of shit that didn't work. And I found a lot of counselors that were narcissists when I was trying to heal from narcissism, which I know in
Mm.
hindsight was trying to get me to open up to what I was facing off with, but I didn't know it at the time. But I mean, if you take a holistic approach, you can see that find something at this block that works for you, right? Like there's a dozen or a half a dozen options. Find one that resonates. But this is why you and I get together every week because you're having these ideas going crazy and I'm having these ideas going crazy, and we're actually running pretty darn parallel to each other
Per usual. It's so funny. So
all the
maybe
time.
there's some co-creation coming on. And then I'm gonna have to leave pretty soon for another appointment, but I just wanted to tell you. So it was just, I like to go to the farmers market sometimes, on Saturday and they have good food and whatever. And I was really called to this crazy t-shirt guy's booth, right?
What
And
did
one
you
of the
buy?
well, I got a pig T-shirt for my son because he has his pet pigs, but it's too. He only had a medium, but I'm like, oh, he can give it to his dad, and they'll both have fun with that. And then I got like like kind of like a trippy, like psychedelic wolf shirt for my brother. We're all from Alaska, and he's really into like the wolves and stuff, and he loved it. And then Justin, we took them to the river, and then I was really called to this like tadpole evolving into a frog shirt, and I got that for
Oh,
Francisco, and he was loving it. He was like wearing it and sending me pictures because he's traveled to Florida, and I was just leaning into that. So I'm like, that's another metamorphosis. Like, I have the butterfly center. I love the butterflies. I love that metamorphosis, transforming to a literal different state of being, right? Which is kind of like this life, this that we're all on in earth. And I was like, but I really was liking that tadpole thing because if I look at the caterpillar, which I'm loving it, right? But they go in and they melt into a pile of goo. And then they come out evolved as a
yes,
butterfly. And I've done that more times than I can count, right? But what I
right.
but then I'm sitting back and I'm looking at this tadpole and he's just swimming and flowing and growing. And like he's swimming and flowing and growing and evolving. And I'm like, maybe that's the next step is that like you don't need
Uh,
that inside goo phase
right,
to
right.
expand. You just keep flowing and you just keep expanding. And so that's
So
what I wanted to call in for me and everybody.
yeah, so very funny. I was reading last week. So you had to hit this with a t-shirt, which I think is hysterical. I was reading I was reading a book by Vishen Lakhiani, who owns Mind Valley, and he refers back to, I think it was Michael Beckwith. And he talks about Satori versus Kensho moments. And I can't remember which one is which, but Kensho, please correct me if I'm wrong, but Kensho are what I used to call those tower moments when your life just fucking collapses and then you've got no choice but to build it back up, right? Kensho are those moments, right? You get into a wreck, you get, divorce, something terrible happens. But with a caterpillar, you have all that pressure and that's what ends up happening. But with the tadpole, you have those satori moments. Those are those growth. They're gentle, right? And those are the ones that are intentional. There's a lot of conscious. So I also was looking at that this weekend, but doing it through just a quick little couple paragraphs through Michael Beckwith. So very funny. once again, that you and I both hit the same concepts in different ways. And I know you need to go, but I also wanted to recommend, I was reading a book over the weekend
Hmm.
called 8 Rules of Love. Even though I'm single, I'm
I need that
still,
book.
I thought about you the whole time. So I'm reading these books because I do want to be in a relationship. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read books like I'm already in the middle of one. And I found this book. And seriously, it's a really good one because it has a lot of stuff about loving yourself and about preparing yourself for relationships if you're not in one, and then how to kind of heal some of the stuff when you are in one.
I love it. So everybody, 8 rules of love. Nothing wrong with that. And so we'll close there. And if you want to stop the recording, Chanel, and then I'll talk to you really quick.
Hold on real quick.
But yeah, I'm gonna get there's a workbook for